Excited to talk about a topic in cruising that is hotter than hot. And that's what's interesting is my background is colder than cold. But we're joined by Alex McNeil from HX. And why is Alex here? He's an expert in expedition or exploration style cruising, which might be something you're not familiar with out there and want to know more. Alex, thanks for joining us as the Chief Expedition Officer. I love your title. Really cool. And I think it makes sense. Great to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Ryan.
Let's dive in a little bit to somebody and maybe a topic for someone that really doesn't know what expedition cruising is. They may understand traditional cruising in the ocean. I know what that looks like. I've been on an ocean cruise. What's different about regular cruising versus expedition cruising?
I often describe expedition cruising as the modern kind of voyages of discovery. They take you off the beaten track to more obscure destinations that are kind of like stimulate your imagination. They're like storybooks come to life. And even in destinations which are better known, expedition cruising provides a pathway to kind of get beneath the surface and really get to know a place, to understand a place, and to have experiences that'll stay with you for years and years to come.
Expedition, when I hear that, that makes me feel like I do I have to be a marathon runner or like in great shape. Is it physically demanding?
Oh, that's a point that comes up time and time again. And I often have this imagery in my head, and that I'm sure other people share. When you say expedition, you think of like people summiting Everest or, these burly explorers with big beards. And candidly, 20 years ago when I joined this industry, there was still a bit of that legacy. It was a bit rustic, but now, I mean, the segment is just coming of age, where you can have people, everyone has in their hearts that sense of exploration, that childhood wonder to learn, to discover, to have, rarefied experiences. And now you can do that. Anyone can do that in a degree of comfort while still retaining that sense of adventure.
As I'm traversing the waters of these really off the beaten path places, my mind goes to an expedition cruise if I don't know what it is. Am I going to be in a little dinghy or am I going to be in this rustic ship? Would you describe the hardware? What type of vessel am I going to be traveling in? And maybe just touch on an obvious one. Is it safe to travel through iceberg waters? Is that a safety issue for me as a traveler?
Yeah, that's a great point. So the vessels now, we're in this new generation of ships where historically this industry, when it really came, like made its first breakthrough in the early 90s, the hardware that was being used was repurposed research and scientific vessels, which were very robust, very safe, but the creature comforts weren't there. Now the industry is seeing this introduction of a new generation of ships, which capture that kind of robustness and purposefulness about the regions they're going to, but also have comforts and increased safety features. I mean, these ships have adopted new technologies that support navigation and weather forecasting and identification like of things like icebergs. So safety is a paramount consideration when traveling to these destinations, but the industry's come so far and is continuing to evolve.
As an expedition expert in cruising, describe the ideal expedition cruiser. Give me that archetype. What does that look like?
Oof. I think the main criteria I would say is you have to be curious. You have to have a desire to go beyond the ordinary, to pursue something different, to learn, to grow through your experiences. These are not travel experiences that are kind of conventional, where you're just going to sit around and read a book or sit on a sun chair. It's about getting out there, experiencing the destination, learning, perceiving, responding to everything going on around you. It's very stimulating. And so people who are looking for that kind of journey are the ideal candidates for expedition.
It sounds like it caters to young, middle, and old. Like it's not just for one age demographic at all.
Yeah, you don't grow out of curiosity. And I think as we learn more, we realize how much more there is to absorb and experience. And so it is a very accessible segment. And I think there are no prerequisites. People often underestimate their physical ability. I mean, especially with the new generation of ships embodied by our flagships, Amundsen and Nansen, which are super comfortable and really well appointed for expedition activities. People can get out there and have these rarefied experiences without the rigors of yesteryear.
How many passengers am I going to be traveling with? And kind of give me the day in the life. And I know it depends on destination in regards to what my day might look like, but let's dive into kind of what that day looks like and who are my cohorts.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, our fleet, we have five beautiful vessels that range on the smaller end from 90 passengers in Galapagos on Santa Cruz dos to our flagships Amundsen and Nansen that have a capacity of up to 500 passengers. And so this really spans the range of the expedition industry. And so generally, you'd be traveling with, let's say, on average, a few hundred. We also have Spitsbergen and Fram, which are 150 to 200. So there's lots of options within the fleet to choose from. One of the things that really distinguishes us as a brand is our focus on learning, on science, on environmental and social mindfulness. So sustainability is a big part of our journey. So if you're traveling with HX, you'll be traveling with other people who have shared interests, who focus on those aspects. And we believe in experiential luxury. Our ships are very well appointed, but the destinations are the highlight for people traveling with us. You asked about a day in the life.
Yeah.
So our days are filled with choice and activity. So it's an all-inclusive product. So on most excursion days, you'd get off the ship once, twice, maybe even three times, depending on what excursions you choose. And you'd be getting out there into the environment, pursuing a kind of activity that aligns with your interests and enjoying that.
If I were a cruiser that maybe I've done, the Caribbean, I've done a 7 night inside passage on Alaska, maybe I've done a couple Mediterranean style cruises, and I'm really looking for something more, something super unique. Give me maybe the top three destinations that you would recommend for my first expedition cruise.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll share my screen here. The first one, which just has captured a piece of my heart, is Greenland. The largest island in the world, a topic that has, come to the forefront recently, and Greenland has been like one of the best kept secrets in travel. It is just this astounding place of natural beauty where you get these absolutely majestic natural sculptures, whether it's the ice, whether it's these mountainous landscapes just jutting right out of the sea. But what really rounds out Greenland as a destination is the cultural aspect, the people. There is an indigenous culture there that has thrived in this majestic environment for thousands of years. And the intimacy you can have, the personal interactions you can have when visiting smaller communities, their engagement with travel is really meaningful because they're on the cusp of pursuing their own journey, of taking advantage of new opportunities, and sustainable travel is a big part of that enthusiasm for them.
I love Greenland. I love the word that you use there, Alex, intimacy. And that's something I think that is unique in the expedition space versus some of those larger ocean cruises that you're on. You're with 3,000 people, maybe 3,000 of your closest friends. That's my joke, obviously. But the intimacy of a ship size that is less than 500, and in some cases, depending on where you're at, less than 100 in the Galapagos. Give me another destination that you would recommend, and maybe take me to Antarctica if you don't mind, because that is always a destination for the passport collector or the continent collector. But Alex, it's so much more than just saying I've been to Antarctica.
Yeah, you could say you've been to the ends of the earth, and for me, I've been to Antarctica over 100 times over the years, and every time it's different. It's literally like going to another planet. The ice is always moving. There's this interplay with the light and the wildlife, and it's just like stepping into another realm. So, Antarctica, to me, the best way to describe it is it redefines your sense of scale of what's possible. And when we talk about journeys of discovery or voyages of discovery, I've found it just so inspiring seeing people transform on these journeys where their eyes are opened to the grandeur of the natural world, to seeing things that they never thought would be possible, that just kind of burst into existence, and they end the voyages, going home reinvigorated with this whole new perspective on life. because their perspectives have just been expanded so dramatically.
Well, you've taken us somewhere cold, a couple places cold. The HX experience is pole to pole, right? It's not just the poles, it's everything in between. So let's hit on another destination that is a very big hotspot for those wanting an off the beaten path experience, and take me to the paths that are on the Galapagos Islands, if you don't mind.
Yeah, certainly. So the Galapagos Islands are this just like ecological hotbed of just biodiversity and abundance. And they're also very accessible. Not only are they temperate, but you don't have to travel to kind of the ends of the earth. You can fly in from kind of continental Ecuador to the islands themselves, and then begin a journey with our expedition team and with the many range of activities. I mean, this is Activity Central. It's a great product for families, for people who just love immersing themselves in the environment. The wildlife diversity is incredible. We have a range of different programs that can be shorter to longer. I mean, in general, they're all around the 1 week mark. So you can really, especially for North American audiences, you can really get out there and have this life-changing experience and kind of bookend it with, a week to a week and a half of your schedule to invest in having those.
Once in a lifetime destinations really draw me in. I get excited about seeing something brand new. But I've been to Alaska a couple of times. I've been there on land. I've been on those 7 night inside passage runs. I think I've been on 3 or 4 Seattle round trip Alaska cruises, and felt like, wow, Alaska's amazing. But Alex, I'm really just scratching the surface of Alaska. Why should I cruise with HX to Alaska? Take me back to a destination maybe I've been to before, because I think you do it quite different.
Yeah, Alaska is a great example of a destination where we get a kind of equal balance of people who return, who've had a taste, whether it's on land or on a more mainstream voyage, who return and want to have a different experience. They want to get away from maybe the well-trodden paths of Juneau and the larger ports, and get beneath the surface, both from an experiential level, but also from a learning level. And so we offer this pathway through our smaller ship routes to go into the wilderness, do zodiac and water enabled activities, whether it's kayaking or going hiking ashore, but also having our robust science program, because Alaska is just such an abundant ecosystem that it's not only about seeing whales from your stateroom balcony, but also getting out in small boats, getting integrated with our scientific team who might be world leading whale researchers, and seeing things under microscopes and hearing hydrophone recordings of the amazing songs that these animals use to communicate with each other. And so it gives you a whole new level of perspective on a destination that some people have experienced and many people have heard about before.
Alex McNeil, you have one of the neatest and most creative titles that I've ever seen, right? CEO, Chief Expedition Officer, right? So it really does dive into the expedition style of cruising. But take me beyond that, and really let's dive into HX in particular. What makes HX unique in this space? Because there's other operators that do what you do. Why are you so unique at HX?
So at HX, there's three key features that we distinguish ourselves on amongst a plethora of industry leading kind of additives. And the themes that resonate most with us and our audiences is, first and foremost, we've been doing this for a very long time. We're about to celebrate our 130th year. And that passion, that sense of heritage resonates throughout the experience, whether it's on board, the way we approach our destination relationships, just kind of reinvigorates that explorer's mindset that was shared by the Scandinavian explorers who came of age the same time as us over a century ago. I've mentioned curiosity. We're made for curious travelers, so we really embrace that journey of discovery, enabling that childhood sense of wonder. People realizing the magic of these destinations in a multi-dimensional way. And that's embodied through our science program, but also the way we approach our off-ship excursions. And the final pillar is around mindful adventure. Now, mindful adventure, often trends towards sustainability. We're one of the few companies that publishes sustainability metrics. We have the smallest ecological footprint in our category, but it's also about social sustainability and having a personal connection with the communities and the people you're interacting with, the people who are hosting you, and really enabling those personal connections along the way.
Expedition cruising, when I think of it, Alex, is the destination kind of drives the interest. It's really where I start thinking about how can I get to these off the beaten path places. But let's get a little more granular into the actual experience itself. So I'm on a cruise and I'm in Antarctica. Do we just pull right up to the continent and I step off? How do I get to, and I'm being facetious. I think many people realize that there's this thing called a zodiac. What is a zodiac landing experience from start to finish look like?
Yeah, it's a great point. The Zodiacs are the workhorses of the expedition cruising industry. They're tender boats, so they're rigid hull, inflatable boats that are extremely stable, extremely comfortable. And in the majority of the ports, well, there's few exceptions. The majority of the ports in an expedition portfolio, you're pulling into a sheltered bay or a fjord, and you're using the ship as kind of a base camp. And so from that base camp, you use the zodiacs to get people ashore, to take people out to other water-based activities, and generally the shape of a morning or an afternoon, as I said before, we generally try and get people off at least twice a day, is that you'll choose an activity. It could be hiking, it could be kayaking, it could be going out with our scientists in a science boat, it could be zodiac cruising, and you'll get off the ship for an hour and a half, depending on the activity you choose, maybe 2 hours. So you'll have breakfast, you go out exploring, you'll come back, you'll decompress for a few moments, have lunch, and then in the afternoon go out and do it all again.
Is it easy to get on and off those zodiacs? Because I heard you say it's in a sheltered or somewhat a protected open water area. How easy is it to get on and off?
You know, it's getting in and out of a Zodiac is much easier than people conceive it. You're not kind of rappelling down the side of the ship. There are these really stable platforms that fold out. We call them expedition launches. And there's to get it from the ship into the Zodiac, believe it or not, it's about 2 steps that are about 1 foot each. So you're there, there's a sailor, there's a boat driver that's there to get you in, to sit you down. It's absolutely seamless, and I think people often overestimate the complexity. And then once you're there, you're sitting in the boat. As I said, it's super stable, and they're just great platforms for exploration.
And are there hundreds of these zodiac landings happening all at the same time? And is it? I don't want to think of it like Barcelona, where there's just all these people descending on the city. It's got to be somewhat remote.
Yes, these excursions are extremely remote, and it's actually a great comparison that you make to kind of when you conceive of these kind of overcrowded destinations is you're in these just absolutely spectacular and expansive environments. Even when you're with one, two, 300 people, you just feel insignificant. You have such a private experience. The Zodiacs generally take a capacity of 10 guests, and so you're in your own little unit. I mean, maybe the closest thing you could compare it to is like a safari experience where you have your Jeep or your Land Rover that takes you out. And then once you're ashore, a lot of the areas have I guess environmental regulations that govern the amount of people who can be in a given area. So you're always in a very intimate group. So in your general vicinity, you might be 30, 40, 50 people max, and you're standing there just surrounded by the grandeur of the environment that really has such a different feeling to those conventional destinations that we've been hearing about in the news.
Alex McNeil, the Chief Expedition Officer for HX, is with us, and it's super interesting to me how far expedition cruising has evolved over the years. Like we've talked and you have shared with us, many times 20, 25 years ago, you were compromising your on-ship experience to go to these incredible destinations. Not so in the current era of expedition cruising. Describe in great detail how it could be even compared to a luxurious type of an experience on ship in these really remote destinations.
Yeah, so I joined the industry in the mid 2000s, and you sacrifice is probably an understatement. I mean, these ships were not built for passenger comfort. And at HX, we champion experiential luxury, which is the experience people have off the ship, but also how people experience a destination from the ship. And I've got this great image on Amundsen and Nansen of our guests dining in one of our many dining areas with floor to ceiling windows, toasting to the day after many adventures they've had off the ship, and just looking out like and continuing that experience, which translates through. We've got these incredible wellness facilities, so you can be sitting in a sauna, just kind of basking while watching whales in the distance. And yeah, 20 years ago, many of the ships had kind of tiny portholes. There were ships that had interior cabins. The dining areas were kind of in the bowels of the ship because these were converted kind of research facilities. And now it's this the industry is really coming of age, and the evolution is spectacular to watch because the destinations speak for themselves, and now we have these incredible platforms to help bring them to life.
Walk me through my luggage. I mean, I'm worried about, do I need to pack snowshoes and big puffy jackets? Walk me through on what my luggage is going to look like.
Yeah, so rest assured, you don't need to carry an old trunk with you and haul numerous bags. People actually travel remarkably light. So for us, all of the expedition equipment is included. We do have snowshoes, of course. We do have kayaking equipment for people who want to do that, or camping equipment. You don't need to bring your own. We provide neoprene boots, really comfortable neoprene boots, which enable a lot of our hiking opportunities and getting ashore. And we also provide waterproof jackets, which are lightweight, they're breathable, but they're also robust enough to protect from any sleet or rain on some of those rare inclement weather days. So yes, you do need to depending on the destination you're going to, because every destination is different. That one of the key things that I would advise people not to overlook is a pair of binoculars. That's the fantastic ways to amplify the experience you're having, to get a little bit closer to the thing you see in the distance, or to have a more intimate experience with a creature that might be nearby. But overall, yeah, I think people overestimate the amount of resources they need to bring with them. This is an all-inclusive experience that's really well set up for success.
Alex McNeil with HX describing to me the ideal traveler. Is it suited for solo travelers, groups, maybe multi-gen families? It seems like expedition cruising kind of draws in a little bit of everything.
I've had the privilege of hosting people from a range of backgrounds, from a range of categories. I've had, people in their 90s, and I've had multi-generational families who are bringing, 6 or 7 year olds and just really inspiring the younger generations to the wonders of the natural world. I think that the main criteria are for people to have a spirit of discovery. They want to explore something. They want to do something unconventional. And they should have a kind of a sense of learning, and wanting to experience something that's unusual, and to open their eyes to something new.
Outstanding description of expedition cruising of HX. Thank you for presenting what HX looks like. Alex McNeil, Chief Expedition Officer. Thanks for joining us today with Bon Voyage Travel.
Pleasure to be here with you, and yeah, hope to continue this journey together.